Every crime has a story. Every story has a lie, okay? And sometimes the person you trust the most is the one setting the trap. Welcome to Mr. Storytime. In the final, gasping hours of his life, Leo the Lion Moretti did something no one in his world ever did. He confessed, not to a priest, not to a lawyer, but to a cheap tape recorder in a dimly lit hospice room. The cops had been trying to pin him for decades, but his empire was built on loyalty and fear. Now, with cancer eating away at his lungs, Leo wanted to burn it all down. He owed the world that much, or maybe he just didn't want to go alone. The detectives who found the tape thought they'd hit the jackpot. This was the Holy Grail, a full confession from the city's most notorious crime boss, K. They gathered in a sterile briefing room, the air thick with anticipation. The hiss of the old cassette player was the only sound before Leo's raspy voice filled the space. But then, the confession took a sharp, unbelievable turn. Leo started talking about a mastermind, someone who pulled the strings from the shadows, someone he called the architect. The detectives leaned forward, pens ready. It wasn't one of his ruthless rivals or a shadowy figure from another crime family. It was a name they all knew, but one that made absolutely no sense in this context. Eleanor Vance wasn't a gangster. She wasn't a politician on the take or a crooked cop. She was a celebrated local journalist, famous for her hard-hitting exposes on organized crime. For years, she had been the city's moral compass. She'd won awards for her fearless reporting, often writing about Leo Moretti himself. The cops in the room scoffed. Some laughed. They had what they needed to clean up the Moretti family, and this bizarre accusation was just a footnote, a weird tangent in an otherwise solid confession. They put the tape in an evidence bag and moved on, ready to make the biggest arrests of their careers. Only one person in that room didn't dismiss it. Detective Isabella Rossi. Rossi was young, but she had a reputation for seeing things others missed. She had followed Eleanor Vance's career for years, admiring her courage. It was fear, pure, unadulterated fear. Rossi couldn't shake it. Why would a man like Leo, staring death in the face, waste his final breaths on such an outlandish lie? It didn't fit. While her colleagues were celebrating their victory, Rossi quietly made a copy of the tape. That night, she listened to it again and again, focusing on that one section. There had to be something more. Her investigation started small. Rossi began digging into Vance's old articles, not as a fan, but as a skeptic. On the surface, they were brilliant. Vance exposed dirty deals and criminal conspiracies with incredible detail, but Rossi noticed a pattern. Every time Vance's reporting led to a major takedown, it wasn't just any criminal who fell. It was always one of Leo Moretti's direct competitors. One by one, rival gangs had been dismantled, not by mob wars, but by front-page headlines. Vance's articles had systematically cleared the field, allowing the Moretti family to expand their territory without firing a single shot. She wasn't just reporting on the crime world, she was shaping it. Rossi then looked into the sources Vance cited. Many were anonymous, insiders who risked everything to talk. But Rossi cross-referenced timelines and events, and a chilling picture emerged. The information these sources provided was often so precise, so timely, that it could only have come from someone orchestrating the events, not just observing them. So it's like a playwright writing a review of their own play. She was protecting it, pruning its rivals, like a gardener tending to a prize-winning rose. Each expose was a strategic hit, designed to look like heroic journalism while secretly serving her own agenda. The deeper Rossi dug, the more twisted it became. She uncovered financial records, shell corporations, and offshore accounts. And there, hidden under layers of legal jargon, was the link. Quiet, unassuming charity organization that Vance publicly championed. It turned out this charity was the central hub for laundering all of Moretti's money. Her weapon was the media, and her power was public trust. She could start a gang war with a headline and end it with a feature story. She was the player, moving all the pieces. Rossi knew she couldn't go to her superiors. They'd think she was obsessed, chasing a ghost from a dead man's tail. Vance was untouchable, a media darling protected by public adoration. Rossi was on her own. She needed irrefutable proof, something more than circumstantial evidence. In a dead mobster's words, he knew Vance would never let him confess. Why was he able to record that tape? Who in that hospice would have helped him? Rossi found her answer in the hospice visitor logs. A young nurse, a recent graduate, had been assigned to Leo's private care. Rossi tracked her down. At first, the nurse was terrified, denying everything. But Rossi saw the same fear she'd heard in Leo's voice. She gently explained what she knew, that Leo wasn't just a monster, that he was trying to do one right thing before he died. The nurse finally broke down. She confessed that Eleanor Vance had hired her. Her job was simple: ensure Leo died quietly. In his last moments of clarity, he convinced her to help him to smuggle in the tape recorder and hide the tape. The nurse was his last hope for the truth to get out. Armed with the nurse's testimony, Rossi finally had what she needed. She arranged a meeting with Vance, ostensibly for an exclusive interview about the fall of the Moretti Empire. They met in Vance's sleek, modern office, a wall of journalism awards gleaming behind her. Vance was composed, charming, the picture of integrity. She spoke about the dangers of her work, the courage it took to stand up to men like Leo. Rossi let her talk, letting the trap set itself. Then, Rossi played her hand. She didn't mention the tape or the nurse. Instead, she asked a simple, pointed question about the charity, a tiny detail about a specific transaction she'd uncovered. For a split second, the mask slipped. A flicker of panic flashed in Vance's eyes before being replaced by practiced indignation. But Rossi had seen it. Rossi calmly laid out the evidence, piece by piece. The articles that eliminated rivals, the financial trails, the shell corporations, the charity. As she spoke, the color drained from Vance's face. The architect's grand design had crumbled. The confession tape had been Leo's last move in a game he'd been losing his whole life. He accused an outsider, not out of madness, but because the real mastermind had been hiding in plain sight, using the trust she'd earned from the public as the ultimate weapon. The biggest crime wasn't the one everyone saw, but the one no one could believe. So tell me something. And if you want more dark stories like this, subscribe to Mr. Storytime.